What's up, everyone? I'm Faloki, and today we're going to be taking a look at what the Seattle Seahawks did in day 2 of the 2020 NFL Draft. So, to get into what actually happened in the drafts, the Bengals ended up taking T. Higgins to start off the second round, so now a pretty good young wide receiver to pair with Joe Burrow. Laviska Shenault ended up getting taken with the 10th pick of the second round to the Jacksonville Jaguars, so now Gardner Minshew will have someone to throw to. Grant Delpit got taken by the Browns. That's a very good pick in my opinion. J.K. Dobbins went to the Ravens, so the Ravens are having a great draft. But now we're going to get into what the Seahawks actually ended up doing. So in the second round, the Seattle Seahawks ended up actually trading up to get pick 48 from the New York Jets. They gave up the 59th pick and the 101st pick, and they ended up taking Darrell Taylor, an edge rusher out of Tennessee. But the problem that a lot of people had with this pick was the fact that he's a good run stopper and he's very good in the run game, but he somewhat lacks the pass rushing skills that we actually needed because the main need of our team right now is pass rushing. I think we were second last in the league when it comes to sacks, just above the Dolphins. So honestly, we definitely need some help at pass rusher. And honestly, he didn't look horrible when I looked at his highlights, and I can't show the highlights due to copyright, but he didn't look horrible when it came to pass rushing. And now, if we go and take a look at the stats, you can see that his pass rushing skills could actually bring to the table a couple good sacks if he ends up getting playing time. His totals in 2019, he had 64 total tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks, and 28 solo tackles, along with a forced fumble. So honestly, he didn't do horrible whatsoever, but he is a 4-year player with an extra redshirt year, so he did spend 5 years in college technically, so he is an older player to get out of the draft. So on to what the Seahawks ended up doing in the third round. They traded down from pick 64 and got pick 69. Very nice. And they ended up getting 148 as well from the Carolina Panthers. So they traded down from the last pick in the second round to a very early third round pick, and they ended up taking Damien Lewis, a guard out of LSU. So honestly, a good pickup because LSU did very good in the pass game. So if he could bring anything to the table when it comes to offensive linemen, that would be a good pickup. As many of the Seattle Seahawks offensive linemen are, however, he's a very good run blocker, but he may struggle in the pass protection game. But overall, he's a very good offensive lineman that we could bring in, especially for a third round pick. He was projected fourth or fifth, but I think honestly, any help that we could get is not bad. So that's about it for what the Seahawks did in day 2. Honestly, I thought the Seahawks would trade up to get a little bit more picks in the third round, especially, maybe even the second round, but they ended up trading out of a lot of their picks. So they got rid of 59 and 101 for 48. So they got a second rounder, but they lost a third rounder. And then they ended up trading out of the second round to get into the third round. So they also got a late round pick from Carolina. So honestly, tomorrow, day 3, or today actually, when this comes up, it will be pretty interesting to see how they actually do in day 3 because they will have quite a bit of picks. And I assume that the Seahawks will probably end up trading maybe out of the 6th round, get some picks for next year, or even get some more picks for this next day of the draft. So that's about it. I'm going to give a little grade for each of these picks. Honestly, I think Darrell Taylor, although people said that there were better options, I think he looks like a pretty good player. Obviously, as I said in my last video, I think that the run defense of our team is good, but they really struggled last year. So anyone they can bring in to help with the run game is definitely a good pick. However, when looking for edge rusher, we definitely needed to look at someone that could bring in an impact against the passing game because we need to get some sack production or even some pressure on opposing quarterbacks. So really, the fact that the edge rusher that we ended up taking was not the greatest of pass rushers, it's a little disappointing, but I think that he has the skills to be able to do it. Obviously, 8.5 sacks is not bad whatsoever. And honestly, if he can even bring half of that production as like a backup this year, that would be a good thing to see. So honestly, for the Darrell Taylor pick, I'm gonna give it a B because obviously there are a lot of other options we could take, but honestly, not a bad pick. But I don't think that we had to trade up for him. I think we would have been able to get him at 59, so we could have kept our third round pick. So honestly, I think it was a weird move because I did not see Darrell Taylor on many mock drafts to go earlier than our pick that we had at 59, but I can't really blame the Seahawks for trading up and taking him because they probably had a feeling that someone would trade up and take him or take him before them, and they really wanted him, so they took him. And obviously, like I said in my last video, we just have to see how they perform. Honestly, like I said in my last video, it's about how they perform in games. It's not about what people think when they're drafted, because, I mean, people probably didn't think that Bobby Wagner was a great pick when he was picked a long time ago. Russell Wilson, a lot of people didn't like that pick, and he ended up being great. Obviously, those are two big names to compare these people to, but honestly, I don't think that it's a bad pick, because we just have to see what happens. If it turns out like LJ Collier, then maybe it's a bad pick, but if he can have any impact whatsoever, it would be pretty decent. So a B right now, and obviously it can fluctuate up or down depending on how he ends up playing in the season. And onto the Damien Lewis pick. Obviously, the Seahawks needed some young offensive line help. Obviously, we picked a ton of offensive linemen up in free agency, so our offensive line depth is insane right now, but some young offensive linemen going into next season or seasons to come will be definitely some good pickups. And I think we'll probably look to take more offensive linemen later in the draft. But honestly, Damien Lewis, he didn't look bad whatsoever. He is mainly a run blocker like most of the offensive linemen for the Seahawks, so might be a problem with the pass protection there. But overall, I'm going to give this pick a B as well, because it fills a need that we're going to need for the future. But really what it's looking like is the Seahawks going for a lot of future talent, not really people to help them win now. So I don't know if this is exactly what I would do if I were the Seahawks. I would try to make some big impact moves to try to get players that will help you win now, especially with Russell Wilson being on such a big contract. You're trying to win now while he's still under contract, but obviously with such a big contract, like I just said, you're going to need to build from the draft to get young players that can make a difference and will not be paid a ton. So honestly, it's a very weird situation for the Seahawks, but overall, not bad picks. Both picks get a B in my opinion. It all depends on how they play. If the offensive lineman ends up doing really well in the passing game and the running game, it'll be nice to see. If our edge rusher Darrell Taylor does pretty good in the season, that will be nice to see as well. But that's going to do it for this video. Overall, decent draft so far throughout day 1 and day 2. Some weird picks, but not bad picks in my opinion. It could have been much worse. So that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. I'm going to be doing a lot more football content. Hopefully, if anything happens throughout the regular season, I'll probably do game recaps for the Seahawks in the regular season whenever that comes. But honestly, I just enjoy making content. So if you do enjoy any of the content that I make sure you like and subscribe. And yeah, thanks for watching. Have a great day.